how can I find the one? Oh, I'm just looking for my person. Yeah, we are not going to do that. That is a toxic way of thinking, and you are setting yourself up for failure in thinking that there's one soulmate. There are multiple connections in your world, not just one soulmate. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Let's unbox this myth of the one. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It is your girl, Lori, and boy, am I excited that you're here. Can you believe it's November already? Like, seriously, can you really put your head around the fact that I feel like I was just talking to you and I was like, hey, I think I'm going to open my pool this weekend, or hey, I won't be here next week. I'm going on vacation. Yeah, that was in July. I'm like, woo-wee, time is going by really fast. So I will be starting to decorate it. When November 1st hits, it's like Christmas season. Like, I just go straight to Christmas season. So that is going to probably be over the next 4 weekends, little by little. That's going to be my life. But I hope that you guys are doing well and that you are ready to kind of wrap up this year and kind of get ready to go into 2024. Got a lot of amazing things coming up for you guys in 2024. A lot of different programs, a lot of different things, my books, all of these things are coming out next year. And you know, time is linear. So you only ever have now, but you want to plan accordingly. So I want to talk to you about that. And before I jump into that, there is going to be a worksheet over on Patreon. We're going to finish talking about like what we're going to talk about now. And then over on Patreon, there's going to be the worksheet to kind of help you understand where that limited belief system is, or where that distorted thought is coming from. And then what it is that you need to accept, and sort of like, there's going to be some prompts there to ask yourself, because I like to give you guys things that are going to give you time to think and be aware of. So if that's your jam, head on over to patreon.com/the positivity experience, or you can also click the link anywhere that you're getting this podcast right now. If you go to the notes or the description of the podcast, it's going to be right there and you can click it if that's your jam. So let's talk about it, because this is something I run in every area of my profession, right? Whether it be like, hey, because you guys know, I teach manifestation, mindfulness, meditations. And one of the first things people say to me is, I want to manifest my person. I'm like, oh my God, we got so much work to do. There is no your person. All right. Sure. There could be old soul ties. There could be twin flames. That does not mean that there is one soulmate. There is no such thing as one person for you. All right. Now, I can tell you where I think a lot of that comes from. Well, we know where a lot of it comes from. It can come from Greek mythology. It can come from various religions. It can come from society. It can come from, I know for growing up, I'm 52. I was going to say I'm 50. I'm definitely older than 50, but I'm 52. And, it was like, oh, your Prince Charming will come and you'll marry them and you'll be a happy ever after. And I think that's the biggest thing that people keep falling in love with, is this happily ever after, right? If I get this one person, this is my happily ever after. Now, you do that in other areas of your life too. If I have $8 million in the bank, I'm going to be happy forever and ever. That's not true at all. I mean, that is not true at all. You might have a lot less financial stress. That does not mean that you're going to be happy. So when you're going in your head and thinking that this person is my person, I'm going to tell you some reasons why this is not just toxic thoughts, horrendous for your growth in any type of relationship. Now, we're talking about from a romantic relationship. However, this can also pertain to friendships. Well, I've known this person for 20 years, or we have so much in common. Like, we have so much in common. This is my best friend. Okay, calm down, right? We know that goes into attachment, but I want to explain to you why you searching for the one, and you may see this in yourself. You may say, wow, I see why sometimes I have a hard time in relationships, right? It's about awareness. It's never about blaming yourself or saying that there's something wrong with you. Being aware of it is how we change it. And a lot of times people don't want to take on that awareness, right? Because somehow or another, they're like, well, if I'm aware of it, then that means that I'm a bad person, or I'm stupid, or I should have known. No, that's how you're looking at it. Your awareness must happen. So I'm going to talk to you about several different ways as to how this is bothering you individually, where your expectations are becoming so high. And that is the first one, unrealistic expectations. You are establishing unrealistic expectations. If you have this concept in your head that you have this one person, this one soulmate, right? First of all, think about how that sounds. Sure. Do you really want to go in and out of relationships? No, I mean, some people enjoy it, but like, not really. You're like, oh, I got to learn this person again. And okay, but just hear me out on this. Okay. You're going to have an unrealistic expectation in a relationship, right? Because you're going to believe that because you feel, feelings aren't facts. We know this. You feel as though this person is your soulmate. You've now decided this person is going to fulfill my emotional, my physical, my intellectual needs. And think about how heavy that is. And just because you assume or you feel this strong connection with this person, let's say the person demonstrates the same thing, they may not feel it on that level. Go back, and the reason I put this on right after the one that we were talking about last week when I was talking to you about what can you give in a relationship, very often you're trying to project your needs on what you need in a relationship on somebody else, and then when they don't even reciprocate it or it doesn't land for them the same way it would for you, you get your feelings hurt. But they don't need those things. So this is why that communication piece is important. When you think this is my one, this is the person who I'm going to run away and I'm going to get married and we're going to have kids and we're going to have a house. We're going to grow old together. And we're going to have da. Okay, calm down. It is Monday. Let's get through Monday. Right. And part of the reason that I wanted to do this topic outside of it was on my list to do is I was reading something and somebody was like, well, maybe Travis Kelce is the one for Taylor. Okay. Taylor's dated a lot of people. Travis has dated a lot of people. That doesn't mean that if they like get together, like long-term together, if they get together long-term forever and ever and ever, that doesn't guarantee, there's no such thing that guarantees that, well, this is my soul connection. This is my one, regardless, this is going to be my person forever. Let's say they just fall deeply in love and they are like really rocking it. They end up getting married. They have a few kids. It looks so, so good. You're enjoying it. By the way, you don't even know them other than what they show us. And then 20 years down the road, you see Travis is divorcing Taylor. And you're like, why? Like what? And then immediately you go, oh, he must be cheating. No, that's not true at all. That's not at all what that means. I was married once before. I grew apart from my first husband, not for any other reason, not for a guy, not for a girl for him. No. You have to remember that you grow. Yeah, hopefully you're not the same person at 20. When people say things to you like, you've changed. Yes, I have. You're supposed to change. Absolutely. Right? Like, yes. And you have to remember that person is not in your life to fulfill every one of your needs. So thinking that you are going to have a soulmate, this is where the problem is going to come in. That's from a romantic relationship. Think of that from a friendship too. Well, you're my best friend. You guys know my childhood best friend, Kim and I just met her for lunch this past weekend because I was up by her doing a group and we are great, but we do not reach out every day. We hardly reach out at all, really. And it's like, we're good with that. So if you're mine, you're like, I have a best friend. We go to the movies. We have drinks all the time. Okay, no, you're putting unrealistic expectations on the fact of how you think that the soulmate is, and you assume that the other person feels the same way. It's not so. It is not so. And yeah, harsh reality. You got to realize that. All right, you got to realize that. So number one is thinking that there is the one for you puts amazingly unrealistic expectations upon that. It also limits your options. That's right. It limits your options. So if you believe in the existence of only one soulmate, it's going to limit your options in the search for any type of love or connectivity because you're going to become overly selective, super dismissive of potential people who don't fit this idea of the one soulmate. And now you're just releasing all of these opportunities from people, situations, things, friends, because it just doesn't fit that narrative. Because in your mind, you go, okay, these are my needs. I will repeat that. I love that you know your needs. A lot of times you don't. So find them. I love that. Oh my God, I love that for you. That's how we gain our self-confidence, our self-love. That's how you do those things. It's gorgeous. I love it. Here's the issue though, is that you are saying if everybody doesn't have all those things, this is what's going to make them my soulmate. And if they don't have all those things, then they're not my soulmate. Well, then you might be a very lonely spinster with 75 cats who lives in a shoe at the age of 70. Because no, everyone isn't going to meet all of those needs. What you do is you say, what are my non-negotiables? Right? You're going to have to sit with that. What are my non-negotiables? Like we were talking about last week in the podcast last week, it's great to know that. If someone can't provide that for you, I don't care how much you've said, this is the person, this is the one. Well, now you start ignoring red flags. You start ignoring things because you have now decided this is the one. It's funny, like way back in the day. And in some cultures, you're still actually married out, like you have an arranged marriage. But like, when you were younger, even in any culture really, at 15, you had to get out, like move on and go find a person. And it wasn't even just they were looking for the one, they were looking for somebody who had a little bit of stability. And it was just kind of like that was the rules, right? So thank God we've changed that belief system, because what if you don't even want to get married? What if you never want to have kids? By the way, that's perfectly fine. That is okay. So if your mom's pressuring you to have kids and you don't want kids, don't have kids for her. She'll just have to be miserable. Let her be sad. You keep rocking your way. Okay. So this is important. So remember, it limits your options when you're saying this person, this person, this person, and then you're only looking for a type. You're only looking for a thing. You're only looking for certain financials. You're only looking for that. I'm just telling you, it's going to be very, very limiting in scope. So stop doing that, because you're missing out on so many opportunities and so many amazing people. I don't know if you had this experience in school. I sure did. Like, middle school, high school, or actually any age really. But you meet somebody and again, you think, they're okay. Like, they're fine. Like I'm not super attracted. I'm not attracted. They're just there. And then you start talking and you're going out, like everybody's going out in a group and they're funny and they're really nice and they're kind of thoughtful. And you think, well, they're kind of cute now, like, right? But sight unseen, or when you first saw them, you were just kind of like, it's all right. And then you start getting to know somebody and then you're like, oh my God, they're actually kind of nice. Why? Because you weren't looking to them to fill some need of this soulmate, because you're like, well, this is definitely not the person. And then you start saying, oh, this person's kind of cool. Do you know how many people I know who got married that way? Yeah, a lot. It's not always that love at first sight. And you're like, oh, you're my person. Yeah, please stop doing that. Like, that's not a thing. Okay. That's called infatuation. That's not love at first sight. That's lust at first sight. All right. Now, there is a level of fear of failure that comes into play here. When you believe, okay, really want you to hear this. When you believe that there is only one perfect match for you, one in your entire existence, or one person in your entire existence, there's this fear of making the wrong choice. There's this fear of like, okay, well, is this the one? Now you start having relationship OCD almost. Like you start going, okay, cool. And then you go, but what if that's not the one? Well, what if I'm missing out? Like, what if I go with this person? But wait, how do I know? Stop it. Stop putting all this pressure on it. Because what it is you can lead yourself right into decision paralysis. Because you're like, do I stay in it? Well, I guess I'll stay in it because, I guess it's the one. And I think there's this fictitious thing you have in your head that says, if I'm with the one soulmate, I'm going to just feel so connected at all times. Oh my God, I love this person so much. They are my, yeah, that's unrealistic with any human. I don't care the most soulless of persons, or whatever you want to call it, of all of these people you think are like so amazing. Yeah, they're still going to get on your nerves. They're still going to pluck your nerves. The honeymoon phase of any relationship is going to run its course. That is natural. That is humanity, right? It's great and easy to be like, oh my God, this is the one. We have so much fun together. And okay, yeah. You also don't have real life together, right? Have you talked about bills? Do they have debt? Do they have a baby mama? Do you have a baby daddy? Like, you're not thinking about any of that. You're just thinking like, oh my God, this feels so good. And then the moment that starts to dissipate some and you start getting kind of like, not annoyed with the person, well, that too, but you just kind of get used to the person. Then you go, well, that probably can't be the one, right? Because like, it just feel kind of like, okay, no, that's fine. That's normalcy. Real love should not be pitter patter of the heart. Real love should not be like, oh my God, I feel so great. No, love should feel comfortable. It should be easy. Love is not that difficult. It really isn't. Love is only difficult when you're trying to force something to happen that isn't supposed to happen. That's when it becomes difficult. Or you're not saying your needs, or you're not speaking your piece, and then you're mad, and then you're like, this isn't working. Well, that's on you too, right? But I need you to understand in general, I don't care if it's the 15th one, it is going to run its course in any relationship. This is why you can't just go by, is the person good looking? Is this person great with sex? Okay, all beautiful things. Does it really matter at the end of the day? No. Is this someone that you can have a not so great day, an off day, a bad day with, and you don't feel like you have to, oh God, I guess I better cook dinner because they're going to make it a thing. No, you don't feel good. Don't cook. They're fine. See, that you're going for the wrong thing, and you keep thinking that there's one person on the planet who can do that. So when you start going, well, am I making the right decision? Am I not making the right decision? I don't know. I'm supposed to have the one. Is it the one? It might be the one for right now. It might be somebody you spend 60 years with, and it might be somebody you spend 6 years with. But if you start going into trying to analyze it, you are cutting yourself off at the feet, right? Which also goes into conflict and breakups, right? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So in cases where you believe, okay, that you found the one and only soulmate that you're going to be together forever and ever and ever, it can be extremely sidelining and devastating when somebody goes, hey, you know what? It's not you, it's me, but I'm not in this anymore. I'm checked out. I'm not interested in this relationship anymore. And in your mind, going back to the fear of failure, somehow or another, you failed something and the breakup happened and it hurt you so bad because you're like, wait, this is the one that got away. Stop telling yourself that. The one that got away. No, you experience what you did. You keep it moving. There's no such thing as the one. No, you could say, oh man, I probably should have done a little bit more in that relationship. Well, I didn't. So, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it sucks. I'd like to see where that goes. That's fine. I mean, you're not always going to hit it out the park. You are going to make poor decisions at times. That's okay. That's how life works. But what you have to understand is it's very challenging for you if you're thinking this one person, which we also know, this whole concept of soulmate, there's a lot of attachment in there, right? I'm not saying if you feel like there's a soulmate that you're going to have an attachment issue, but very often they do go hand in hand. Because there's a certain level of like, you're going to be my person forever when I grow old, when I do these things. But you can find love again. Oh my God, I promise you can find love again. Right? But if you only see it as that one person and now you want to have a conversation, right? You're like, this honeymoon thing phase is gone. I mean, I kind of really, really, really like the person. I kind of see it going somewhere. Maybe if I want to get married, maybe this is who I'm going to marry. Who knows? Great. Cool. I love that for you. But don't sit there and be afraid to lose that person. You don't lose people unless they're keys or phones. Those you can lose. People you don't lose. They just distance from you and you just get out of your life. But what you have to understand is very often you're not going to have a conversation out of fear of not having that person. So that goes into like an anxious attachment, right? Well, hey, I kind of want to tell them that I didn't like that. Oh God, but I don't want to like make them mad. Like then what if we're not together? Then you're not together. Then you're not together. That's right. Then you're not together. Because if you are always walking on eggshells, you are not in a good relationship. Period. Okay. So don't sit there and say, well, I got to make this work because this is the one. This is the one. So I got to be miserable. I'm not allowed to have a voice. I have to walk on eggshells because if I don't, I'm going to fail at it. And then I'm not going to find anybody else. And then here I am. I'm going to be the old person. And now I'm comparing myself to 93 people on Instagram. And why do they have relationships? And I don't have relationships. And why don't I have the one? Because the one doesn't exist. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have connections. This doesn't mean that you have a deep connection. I've been with Paul married almost 16 years, together 18 years. We have a great connection, but we have a solid friendship, right? We're not super needy on each other. We each have lives outside of each other. He golfs, I play pickleball, I crochet. Like we have autonomy. Well, would I say he's my soulmate? I mean, we have a great connection, and I also don't get attached to things like that. And so it's great for what it is right now. Hopefully it'll be like that for a very long time. I have no idea. I don't try to think about it. I don't overanalyze it. If something comes up and I need to talk to him about it, I will. If I'm doing something and he needs to talk about it, he will. And if I get my feelings hurt, that's on me. That's my stuff. He shouldn't be quiet because he's too worried about how I'm going to respond. No, he's just as important as I am. So you need to understand that, because the more that you keep trying to avoid having these conversations in fear of somebody's going to leave or this is the one, this is going to become a problem. So you can see how if you kind of put those things together, you've got unrealistic expectations. Then you're also limiting your choices. So you're like, okay, well, I guess this is, and then you almost like tell yourself, well, this is who I got to be with, because let's see, I said it was this. And I mean, I feel good with them and they have all of these boxes checked. And then later on down the road, you go, well, I got what I wanted. I always tell you, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And you go, yeah, that's great. Be careful, because sometimes what you're asking for, I've seen it happen with my clients where they are in a relationship that feels very avoidant, right? And they're like, I don't know, they don't pay me any attention. These are the things I want. And by the way, in both genders or all genders. And then they get out of that relationship, they get into another relationship, and now they're sort of the focus of that person. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Like, they call me a lot. They're always checking in. I'm like, and I point out, this is what you wanted. And they're like, well, I didn't necessarily want this. No. You can't say you want this and then pick and choose which areas you get, right? Because if you want some, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Craft. I love the movie The Craft, but in one of the girls in there, she wants this guy to like really like her. And of course they make a spell, and of course it's over the top, but he's throwing pebbles at her window. He wants to carry her books. He's doing all of these things. And at first she's like, oh my God, this is great. And it grows tiring very quickly, right? So be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. So when you say, I don't have a relationship where I'm somebody's, person or whatever, however you say it, and then you get that, it's not always as pleasurable as you think it is. So be careful what you ask for. You might get it. Okay. So I know in your head, you think that that's the perfect solution to finding love. No, do not do that. Now, there's also this high level of pressure and anxiety. I mean, really think about that. The idea of finding the one, it can lead to so much let me just be whoever you want me to be. So many different levels of people pleasing. And like I said, fear of them leaving, but like you lose your individuality. Because you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't even want to be independent. I want to be independent, but I'm not, because I don't want to lose this person. I mean, there's a lot of pressure to kind of make this happen. Right. And then if anybody listening to this right now prioritizes their relationships over themselves, I'm going to need you to rethink that entire mindset. I'm not asking you not to be mindful. I'm not asking you not to be respectful. I'm not asking you that. But I'm telling you that the more you prioritize a relationship, if I had $5 for every time a new client or whatever that would come to me and say, yeah, I just don't know what to do with my life. For the last 20 years, I invested my everything into this relationship, and then they just left me and I don't even know where to begin. Yeah. And they're like, why? I wish I could have come to you or, known myself 15 years earlier. Yeah, we all do. But you can't hold on to that. Okay. When you invest your everything into your family, your friends, everything, work, oh God, especially work. And then you wake up one day at 75 and you go, I didn't really live my life. I did everything I was supposed to do, but I didn't really live my life. Well, yeah, that's because you have this pressure to achieve this certain thing. You have the pressure to achieve finding this one because you've now glorified and fantasized it. That's all it is a fantasy of, if I get this person who's going to be my everything, I'm not going to feel alone. I'm going to have somebody to do stuff with. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be healthy. All right, you got to stop doing that. And that goes very much into the very next one, which is unmet expectations. Now, go back to the expectations podcast that we did about a couple months ago. Listen to that on repeat if you need to. When you believe that you have found the person of your dreams, right? There's this idea of perfectionism. You are going to be extremely disappointed when your partner does not live up to these idealized ideas. Okay. And it's going to be dissatisfaction. It's going to be frustration. It's going to be hurt. It's going to be all of those things because this person demonstrated to you that they were a human being, not a perfection of a person. Demonstrated a human being act. I did this. I sacrificed 18 years to get the kids through high school and now they're off on their own and they don't even call me because they don't owe it to you. That's why they don't call you all the time. They don't know. They're not on your time. Yeah, they decided to go ahead and live their life. You didn't always have that opportunity at times, right? Because you were too caught up on having the one. So when you're throwing these expectations out there, all right, and then you're like, well, this is how it's supposed to be. And then the person shows you that they're a human being. They don't respond well or they're not even all in. And then you're like, oh my God, what's wrong? And what's wrong with them? And now your feelings are hurt. Now you're mad. Now you're second guessing the entire thing. Is this my person? What you mean? Is this your person for right now? Maybe. Stop saying forever and ever. All right. Because today is forever, right? Because time is linear. So I guess you're living in forever right now. But you got to stop doing those things because just because you sacrifice and you quit your job and you go and you move somewhere. Okay. Think about that long and hard before you do it. Think about that long and hard. If you know, let's say you're with a partner, you're not even married yet, but you're kind of feeling it. Like you've been in the relationship for a couple of years. It's pretty good. You can see yourself building a future. And the person goes, yeah, I got this great job and it's in Chicago. I don't know, wherever you want it to be. It's in Chicago. If your immediate thought is like, okay, well, I mean, as much as I don't want to go, I'm going to go. Why? Have you thought about it? Did you sit on it? Are you afraid of letting that go because you don't want to ruin it? Well, what if you uproot your entire being? You're in school for something, you got a great job or whatever the case may be. I'm not too worried about family because it's whatever. You don't have to stay around family if you don't want to. But now you've kind of put everything on hold for this person. And that can breed a lot of unmet expectations. And then you do that in manipulative, sort of gaslighting, terrible thing where you throw it up in somebody's face and you go, I quit everything. I did everything for you. It's because I love you. You're my person. So of course I'm going to make sacrifices. Yes, life, we make sacrifices, but think about it before you do it. Because if you're going to throw that up to somebody because they didn't respond accordingly, you got to check yourself on it. That's your ego. So if in this fictitious, well, it's not really fictitious, it happens. In this scenario where you're like, well, I don't want to be without that person, going back to what I said before, make sure before you just jump out there with yesing everything to death. Yes, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Make sure you think about it because you always have to choose you. The problem is very often you don't choose you and you're not choosing you because you're choosing this idea of the one where yes, you will compromise. Yes, you will have communication, but you have to check and make sure you're solid first, right? So what if you're like, I don't really want to go to Chicago. Like I live in San Diego right now and my partner wants me to go to Chicago. Yeah. Okay. If you know it's going to be 6 months to a year or 2 years and you realize that you can do stuff there and you thought about it, on how it will affect you. I'm not talking about your relationship. I am not talking about your relationship. How will this affect you? Well, it does give you a good opportunity. You got to weigh your pros and cons. Don't get caught up in decision fatigue. Like, is this right? Is it wrong? If it doesn't work, you just leave and you go back home. Like, seriously. Yes. And it is that easy. You just plan for it, right? I mean, don't plan for it, but like if it happens, then you would plan for it. Okay. But you think on that. You don't just go, well, I guess I got to go because I don't want to lose you. No. If it's not going to somehow or another feel comfortable for you, and you really won't know, like I do want you to get out of your space. Like I don't want you to be like, well, I've lived in the same town for 70 years. I mean, that's great if that's your jam, but I want you to experience life. Okay. So before you decide, am I going to go with this person? Am I going to go do these things? Okay, breathe. And it might just mean, listen, if y'all are truly connected, not soulmates. If you're truly connected, sometimes it can work at distance. And maybe it's only for 2 years and you decided you're going to get more schooling or you just had a baby and you just want to stay local around mom and dad. That's fine. You can make it work when you're more than just holding on to it because you're afraid of anything. Which actually goes into the very next one. which is your relationship struggles, right? Absolute relationship struggles will come into play because in reality, okay, and I think that you can know this without me even saying this to you. In reality, every single relationship that you ever have in your entire life requires effort, compromise, and growth. But if you believe in just the one person or you can't be without that person, it can very much discourage individual people from putting in the necessary work to make it work. And again, you may be at like a middle area in this relationship and like seeing going forward. The person may be somewhat in and still sees it going forward. They're not on your timeline. Okay, maybe they're not on your timeline at all. Maybe it's just a fun thing that you're going to do for right now. But if you keep sitting there and going, can I just make a decision? If it doesn't work, you still win. You don't realize that every time you make a decision, there is no, is it going to work or is it not going to work? It either aligns accordingly with how you thought it was going to be, or it goes, yeah, no, girl, no, that's not going to happen. No, that's not happening. And you may get your feelings hurt. You may be disappointed. You may be all of the above. However, you will learn something. Okay, well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess that's not for me. It's sad, but it is what it is. You have to remember that when you're thinking that you could have one friend, it really does even go into the one mom. I mean, now, realistically, you do have one mom, one birth mom. Yes, you have one birth mom. That is a fact. But it's almost similar. Now, of course, we're talking about the one more of the intimacy and friends and stuff. But it does go into that same sort of thing of like, well, she's my mom and, I don't understand why I don't have this relationship with my mom and I want it to be better. And you're willing to sacrifice everything of your mental sanity. And then you get mad when she's not doing what you want her to do because she's not fitting into a box. Essentially, it's the same thing. We're just labeling it two different things. One is I'm falling in love with an idea of how the relationship with my mom and my siblings and my brother and whomever else should be in your head. And on this side, you're saying, well, there's this person who can make me feel everything. This person is my person. Okay. You're really saying the exact same things. Really think about that. Okay. Really think about that. You're saying, if I have one soulmate, this is my everything. Well, you just kind of said the same thing about your mom. And you, in both of those scenarios, you refuse to accept that sometimes people in your life that start there are not going to remain there. I do not care how many connections you have. You have so many soul connections in this world, but you're missing out on so many opportunities out of fear, out of anxiety, out of expectations, out of what you think somebody wants from you, out of the fear of judgment. Sometimes you get caught up in this, the one, because your mom, somebody says to you, oh my God, they look like, they're checking all your boxes. That's cool. You and your girlfriends over wine talking about it. Love that. No one is going to check everything for the rest of your life. Everybody's going to, at some point, somebody's going to get on your nerves. Anytime you live with a human being that isn't you, and sometimes you get on your own damn nerves, they're going to get on your nerves. Okay. So I want you to be very clear in that, because these expectations that you have put you in this comparison mode when you don't have a partner, but then you had a partner and then you kind of thought this partner was going to be this. And then you're worried, is this going to be forever? Stop focusing on that, because they can't guarantee you that it's going to be forever. You might be like, well, I would never hurt somebody. Listen, again, you'd never intentionally hurt somebody, but I've done this business long enough to know that don't tell me what you won't do, because you might say what you think you wouldn't do. That doesn't mean you won't do it. Okay. These are important factors for you. It comes with self-awareness. It comes with all of that. So let's remember the main one for you will always be you. Stop giving your power away, looking for the one that really doesn't exist. Check it out.